Let's be honest, parenting can be messy and hard, but also so rewarding. In this podcast, we'll share all the ups and downs of parenthood, as well as share some of our favorite tips and tricks for parenting using both our experiences and expertise from our professional lives as a speech and language pathologist and teacher, but also our everyday lives as moms, just trying to balance it all. We're so glad you could join us.
Hello, welcome to And Then We Had Kids. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Sheena.
And we're excited to have you guys listening today. I know we got like Valentine's Day coming up, which I love, like any kind of day, doing something special for the kids. My husband and I don't really do
I just like the candy.
You what?
I just like the candy.
I mean, that's good too. I feel like, yeah, any kind of like the treats, like the special cookies, candy. But yeah, I feel like growing up, like again, my parents did like things and it made any kind of holiday just nice. So I like now being able to start that with my kids. But like something happened today. I want to share this before we jump into like Valentine's Day and kind of like our theme around that is that today, my youngest, this was just like a mom moment that it was just nice. My daughter was at gymnastics and so I was home with my son, putting him down for a nap. And he's been like 50-50 if he naps these days. Like he'll just, yeah.
Wait, he's already fading naps?
I like can't. Yeah. So that part's like too much for me, or my daughter slept forever. Like I had to drop my daughter's nap. I remember telling the pediatrician when they asked me, like, does she nap? And I'm like, no, not anymore. I had to pull it because she would nap for like 2 to 3 hours solidly every day, but then wouldn't go to bed till like 9:30, 10. So it felt like, girl, I've seen you forever today.
Yeah.
So I pulled that. Whereas my son, he is like maybe 2 days he'll nap, then a day where he's just chatting to himself for a half hour, 45 minutes. And I walk in and he'll be like, I awake. And I'm like, I know you are. I've been hearing you this entire time. So today I put him down and I thought maybe it would be like super easy because he went to class today. And usually if we have like something, then he'll take a nap, like class or gymnastics or something like that. And he didn't. He was like crying, sitting up in his crib. So I went up and rocked him for a little bit, put him down. Again, like shortly a few minutes later, crying again. I was like, okay, I'll rock you one more time. And he fell asleep while I was rocking him.
Oh.
And that hasn't happened in like a very long time, months for sure. And I just sat there with him in my arms for like half an hour. I thought about all the things that I could be doing with no kids in the house, or no kids that I would have to be taking care of, like my hour of time. Like, let me organize anything in my house and let me do a load of laundry. Let me get dinner prepped. Let me just do anything for myself. And I sat there and I loved it.
Right? Because you're not going to have those moments forever.
No, and because it doesn't happen so often, I was like, screw all the stuff I have to get done. He was like snoring on me. I could like feel his drool on my shoulder. And I just totally lived in the moment. And it made me so happy that, yeah. And then I eventually did put him in his crib and he slept for like an hour and a half and it was great. But I was so glad I took that time to just be with him.
Yeah. Oh, so sweet.
Like you said, it was sweet. I was like, oh, this was either going to end one or two ways. Like,
right.
You're going to be up with me and then it's fine. But then he fell asleep and it just was like one of those moments. I was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
This means more than I actually probably thought it would.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to share that. It was just like, I know we talk about like living in the moment a lot of times and like that's super helpful for mindfulness and not kind of letting like the stress pile up. And it's really hard to do. I could have easily just put him in his crib once he was asleep,
right,
and start cranking out household chores. I'll get to that. It was fine.
It can wait.
Totally. So just a little reminder that like it's okay to let things go to the back burner.
Yep.
So yeah. How's your day?
My day was, busy as usual. Busy with work stuff, busy with the kids. My husband is out of town at the moment. My little one actually is walking in the door right now, climbing into bed.
Hi.
I
Yeah,
think he might just fall asleep right next to me.
that sounds fine.
But yeah, luckily my mother-in-law is here to help. Um,
That's nice.
so
That's
yeah,
all. I mean, yeah,
it's super helpful to have just an extra set of hands and whatnot. So
totally. So then with your, I see your little guy there. Do
mhm.
switching gears now. We talked about like Valentine's Day. Does he do something for his school?
Yeah, so he's in public school this year. So while his brother's at still at our little private daycare. And we've always done like the little Valentine's
Like the easy ones,
treat.
just like scribble your name. Yeah.
Well, yeah, although I will say like in years past, I got a little bit more creative and did like found cute ideas on Pinterest and labeled like applesauce pouches. Or I think last year my older one gave dinosaurs to all of his classmates.
Oh, that's
This
cute.
it is cute, and I just don't have the energy or the bandwidth for it this year, and so I did the store bought this year, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Every year can be different for
yeah,
sure.
and like, let's be honest, the kids aren't gonna care whether handmade something at home or bought one of the boxed, sets of cards from the store. They're not gonna care, so
Yeah. No,
I feel
the
like for all the moms listening or all the parents listening, it's okay to just do the store-bought stuff and take the easy way out because you probably have plenty of other things on your plate that you're trying to balance.
100%. So my daughter's school, last year, her class didn't do Valentine's for the kids. Like the teachers did like a little party where they had like games and stuff, but it was basically like, please don't send in Valentines.
Oh,
And I feel like that started me. I'm totally guessing why, because that made me a little sad. I was like, why not? Like I don't mind putting together little cards, like you said,
right.
going to the store, buying something. And she was in the like 3 to 4 year old class. But I do feel like that had maybe something to do with COVID. Probably some moms who didn't want to go the extra, which is again totally fine. You don't need to.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I believe at one point the rationale was like it's too confusing for kids at that age. And
How?
there wasn't a follow-up question from me at that point. To me, my response was there aren't, to myself. I should say the response to myself. I didn't respond to any teachers. I kind of just like accepted that that's what
Yeah.
happened. That was the protocol for the school, and I wasn't gonna like rock the boat too much. Maybe in the future I will consider. Um, but I thought to myself, this is the time when it's not confusing because for Valentine's Day, you don't have those crazy emotions. You're not dealing with like crushes and like
Well, and they're
that
not paying
piece.
attention to like who you got what from. Like they're probably not even paying attention to the fact that like maybe not everyone got Valentine's and that's okay.
Right. Although like everyone, I mean, I feel like there's a blanket rule that you bring in enough for everybody if you're doing something for your class. I
Yes,
assume
but
that's
like
what like most
I
like
think what I mean is like it's okay if one kid forgot to bring in Valentine's for the whole group.
totally, totally. Yeah, so she didn't do anything last year and I like the creative stuff. I mean, I'm home and that's what I enjoy doing. And so I was a little bummed. So this year she gets to do it. Um and and I love it, but I also did buy store-bought stuff just in case time goes by and my ideas are a little bit more grand than what I can manage. So I'll probably do both. And even if we just make some Valentines for like friends and family members, and then she gives like the box ones to her classmates, perfect. bringing it back then, I still then was thinking when it's too confusing, Valentine's Day, obviously, like, you can really dig deep into, like, the love and all of that jazz. But for these little guys, it's really about, I mean, I think when I think about it, it's like building friendships and, like, building respect,
Yes.
doing things that are kind for others, and no better time to teach that than these younger ages. Setting
Why
that
not?
foundation,
Right. Start
building
it
those
young.
skills, not having anything be, like, super clicky, um, which, like, happens early on too. Like, that's just the reality of you. They form friendships, and they are better friends with kids than other kids. But Valentine's Day is just, like, a day to be kind.
I'm just going to jump in real quick and apologize to all of the listeners who have listened to my little one moan and whine and cry and cough in the background.
I feel like I'm talking loud enough that you can't even hear him.
Okay, good. Um,
But if
because
you can, that is her
that is
little
why
guy
it's because he has
hanging
climbed
out.
into my bed while we're
Uh-huh.
recording, to fall
Mhm.
asleep next to me since my husband is out of town. So
Yeah.
hopefully he's going to fall asleep very quickly and not make any more noise.
Even if he does, we can be accepting that this is our life. Our kids are here, and it is what it is.
But yes, I think like one of the things I really want to teach my kids is to do nice things for others without expecting something in return.
Oh my gosh, that's huge. Like, even if it doesn't have to be anything like, oh, a toy or something, but, like, even a sticker or just,
Right.
like,
A
something
drawing.
small. A what?
A drawing, right? Like color
Yeah.
a color a page for your friend and give it to them or
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
think
just
that's
like
a
those
really
little
key
things.
piece. 'Cause then I was just mentioning, like, if you do something nice for somebody, either it's a friend, sibling, parent, nanny, whomever, teacher, and you get something in return, like a toy, a sticker, um, those are those, like, extrinsic motivators. Extrinsic, I said that word right, I think. Um,
Yes, you did.
it's late-ish. Um, and those are all good. Not to say you couldn't do that some of the times, but it should not be expected from our kids every time to be a nice person.
Right.
What does happen is when our kids are doing something nice for other people, for their friends, for their siblings, for their parents, helping out, doing something kind, making a picture, like you said, holding the door for somebody.
Even just saying nice things.
Totally. What that does in return is makes our kids feel good about themselves. Those are those intrinsic motivators that ultimately will keep our kids doing things kind, being respectful to everybody and anybody, because they're going to meet all walks of people of life in their life. So that they start to build these intrinsic kind of like rewards for themselves. Like, if you do something good, what's the outcome is you're going to feel good about yourself. And the goal again is you kind of like pay it forward, is that you do it again and again and again.
Yeah.
So while I was sad that my daughter didn't do this last year for Valentine's Day, mainly because I just saw it as a beautiful opportunity
Yeah.
to
Work on this.
work on just being kind and seeing how when you do something kind for others, like, they're then more likely to do kind things for you. You put a smile on their face, you made their day. And those are the things that we can explicitly teach our kids.
Absolutely. And I think also just thinking about the health aspect too, right? And I think we've touched on this in other episodes, or maybe this is just because I talk about this kind of stuff all the time, even with my job. But that the more that you can like help people feel good about that. Oh no, we did talk about this when
We
we were
did talk
talking
about,
about
like,
like
your happiness.
gratitude,
Yeah,
the happiness
gratitude
project.
and happiness project. Yes.
Yes, is that it leads to a healthier lifestyle, right? Like people have less doctor's visits. They're more likely to live a little bit longer versus the people who kind of are stressed or have more trauma or um kind of just like hold on to all of that anger, it just doesn't feel good.
Right.
Um so it's like
Yeah, the Happiness Project did that with, like, a plant too. I think that they
yes.
had kids,
They would
they had
say
2
nice
different
things.
yeah, they had 2 different plants, and kids were one of the plants was designated as, like, you can say not kind things to this plant, and you can kind of be a bully towards it, and then there was another plant that you were expected to say nice things to and give compliments and just kinda build it up, and the plant responded. I can't remember all the
Right, I
details
don't I know, we'll
as
have to
to, like,
find a
the how
video.
or, like, the why, but I remember the impact is
Me
that
too.
even that was just, like, a really I think, a good visual for kids to see, like, how words and pieces like that have an impact on not only humans, like, any living thing.
Right.
So, I it was really interesting.
Yeah.
So, for Valentine's Day, I think we talked about, like, being kind, and since when we think about our little ones as being 2 and 4, and even at elementary age, like we said, our kids can always benefit from these teachable moments and being really explicit about what they are doing and the impact that it has on other people, and using yourself as a parent as an example. So, like, if your child is making Valentine's Day, if you're work or Valentine's for their classmates, let's say, and you're helping them write their name and putting other kids' name on it, you can have the discussion of, like, how do you think this is going to make this person feel? How would you know that they would feel happy? Oh, you're going to see a smile on their face. Someone might give you a high five. If it's appropriate, like, someone might give you a hug. Like, putting those pieces together, putting, like, kind of like dotting along the way of, like,
Yeah.
if you do this, then this happened. This is how you know. And then bringing it back to, then how are you going to feel about yourself?
Yeah.
If they're going to feel good, they're going to give you a high five. They're going to give you a Valentine. How are you going to feel about yourself? You're going to feel happy. You're going to feel really proud that you got to help out in that moment. You're going to feel good. So I think it's important to, like, not only kind of going through these motions of, oh, it's Valentine's Day, we have to make Valentines. How can you use this as a teachable moment
Right.
and building those, and it doesn't have to be like, quote unquote, like, you're making a best friend. Like, I
No,
think it's more
but
important
it's
about just
just
being,
about
like, kind and being
yes.
respectful.
It's teaching kindness, it's teaching empathy, it's teaching just, like, how to be a respectful community.
Yeah. And like, beyond the classroom too. Like, even just
Right.
like if you're walking down the street, you say hi to somebody, or if you say, how's your day? Just even a simple wave. Where was I? Oh, last week I was taking my son to gymnastics, and there was this elderly couple just walking by, and it was snowy that day and it was cold. And my son just, like, waved hello, and they broke out into a huge smile and waved
Yeah.
back. And yes, he's only 2, but I just use the narrative of, like, "Look, you made them smile. Do you see how happy they are? They
Right.
smiled at you." He obviously doesn't get everything at the age of 2, but the more I talk about that and bring that to his attention, that's the language and that's the self-talk he's going to hear.
Well, and, like, my older one loves to when he comes to the store with me or when we're out in public. I think he even did it when, I took my kids to the Shedd Aquarium here in Chicago the other weekend. Just
Mhm.
saying hi and waving to everyone and, having this giant smile on his face brings a smile to everyone else's face, especially when you're having to deal with long lines at maybe a store or the crowds at the shed, or your kid in the middle of a tantrum, and then you see someone else, smiling and just having such a great time that you remember why you're there and trying to
Yeah,
focus on more of those positive moments.
totally. I know we've talked about this piece that, like, our brains are really trained to, like, trick us into focusing on the negative.
Yeah.
And I think when you just think about anything that's happening in this world, your mind is going to shift to the negative. There are positives. There are positives that we can focus on, that we can teach our kids about. that then, again, in the hopes that it's like this infectious feeling,
Yeah.
that if we feel good, if we can shift ourselves sometimes, we're going to see it in our kids too. So I feel like we're talking like a two-way street, like two different things. Like one is using Valentine's Day as like a beautiful opportunity to teach kindness. And also, I think like it's just I think kids give us just these great opportunities to reflect on things in ourselves. Um, I mean, my daughter is even becoming more attuned to emotions
Yeah.
as she's should be. It's very age appropriate. And if I start to get upset about something, or my husband, if like my tone of voice changes, if my facial expressions, anything, she will ask me, "Mommy, are you happy?"
Aw.
And it's like her way. A lot of things are going on.
Right.
It's her way of processing an emotion bigger than herself. It's her way of like deciphering what's mom gonna do next. Like, how can she make this environment that feels really unpredictable
Yeah.
predictable? And there are times where she like wants to know if she is like contributing to how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And in those moments when she asks me that question, it like 9 times out of 10 stops me in my track and makes me adjust what I'm doing. Whether it's like kind of shifting, like, okay, I can obviously be pissed about whatever's going on.
Right.
Like trying to get out the door, for example. I'm sure that's a time
Oh
I'm
my
like,
god, I
just
feel like
put on your shoes.
that's when
Just put
I
on your
lose my
coat.
cool all
Like,
the time, and, like, trying to not again, it's like a little thing, so how do I
yeah,
stop myself from having such a big reaction
right.
to
And I can't every
model.
time.
No, and I can't either, but it's like,
Yeah.
I think one of the things I've been working on with my older son is just small problems, big problems, and I am trying to model having like that expected behavior for the expected emotion instead of having this
Right.
large reaction for something that's such a small problem.
Yeah.
It's not
Was we
easy.
No, it's not easy. And like we sometimes think, or I should say, I think that with my own kids, I think it's been harder than when I've like was dealing and working with other children.
Right.
Um,
It's different when
that
they're
with
your
my
own.
yeah, where I find myself losing my patience so much quicker
Yep.
that I think that like sometimes like, oh, maybe if I'm just like really firm, or if I'm matching their yelling and now I'm yelling and it just equals more yelling. It's not good. So when she asked me, "Mommy, are you happy?" I like I said, I'll stop and I'll try and label how I'm feeling as best I can. It's often like I'm feeling frustrated that we're late. I'm feeling annoyed. I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling a little disappointed. I label my emotion. And within that, like even just taking that split second to think about what emotion word do I want to give my daughter gives me a chance to like take a hot second and shift so that then I can help them with whatever's going on. And it's way more effective than just like trying to steamroll through it all.
Yeah.
I can't remember how I got here from talking about being kind, but here I am. Ah,
That's us going off on one of our tangents.
yeah. But I
But
but I feel like I think we're just like going back to like emotions and like teaching our kids to be kind. We we have to model it. It
yes.
comes from us, and the language that we use, I know I say this often, the language that we use, well, our kids hear is what they are then going to use as their examples of how to communicate, how to be kind, how to be respectful, how to show those emotions.
I think they're also watching us even when we're not realizing it. So the more that we can genuinely do it to others,
Mhm.
they're watching, they're observing, they're taking it in, they're absorbing this and processing this. I think that also really puts us in a place where we need to be our best, right?
Yeah.
When we're interacting with people in the community, at the store, at a restaurant, people we don't know, our friends, our family, how can we be modeling that kindness, that empathy, that respect, to
Yeah.
support those positive interactions and set a good example for our kids.
Yeah. And I think I love using like books for any kind of like teaching moments. And there are a couple books that I know one that we have read together. Um, it's called Have You Filled a Bucket? A Daily Guide of Happiness for Kids. And it's a great way. It's by Carol McLeod, and it's a great book that takes these kind of abstract concepts and makes them more concrete. So the idea of like if a kid is filling somebody's bucket gets filled when other people do kind things, say kind words, do kind actions. And we each have our own bucket. And when we think about even as adults, like when are we most likely to be our best selves? When somebody has helped fill our bucket. We can do a little bit, but a lot of it does come from our peers, people that
Yeah,
we interact with
absolutely.
every day. So that's a great book to kind of just, like I said, give this nice concrete example of what does it look like, feel like when we're being kind to other people. So yeah, it's called Have You Filled a Bucket Today? And the other one that
Well, real quick too, and I feel like
what?
the concept of bucket filling is really big in at least elementary schools. So there's a
Yes.
good chance, if you've got elementary aged kids at home, that they've already been taught the concept of bucket filling at school. And it's just a great concept that you can then generalize at home with your kids.
That's so true. I feel like we always appreciated partnership with parents, and obviously you still do working in the school system. That if you're curious about what language your kids are using in their classroom, reach out to the teacher and just say, "Hey, we're taking this opportunity for Valentine's Day to talk about being a good friend, to talk about kindness. Is there any language that you guys are using, or if there's any like materials or resources
Right.
that we can then use at home so that
There
they're
might
hearing, like you said, that same language throughout the day."
Yeah, there might be some type of social emotional curriculum that they might be utilizing within their schools. I know that my older son's school will send home like a weekly newsletter or whatever to the families, and in it, the teacher will include kind of the topic of their social emotional learning from the week, so that we as parents can help practice that at home. So I think if your school or your teacher does that, great. If not, don't hesitate to reach out and just ask.
That's super helpful. This other book was actually one of my mom's, and I think the idea is the same. I think just with the bucket filling that seemed to have just really caught on with schools. But this other book is called Heart Prints, and it's by PK Hallinan. And we'll post these so you guys can have links to these books. And it's like the same idea. When you do something nice, you're leaving a heart print with somebody, and then that person is most likely to go do something nice. And how many heart prints have you done throughout the day? But again, those are the two books, but you can find examples of friendship and being kind, helping out almost every book you read.
Yeah, I mean, I even used to do that in my classroom around Christmas time with The Grinch, which I feel like we maybe talked about before too.
Mm-hmm.
Just teaching my students to do random acts of kindness for others, and we would just fill up this giant Grinch, as a way to remember, recognize that doing kind things helps make us feel good. It made the Grinch feel better. He was a less Grinchy individual by the end of the movie or at the end of the book. But it's just that concept of doing something kind for others without the expectation of something in return.
Yeah.
But
So,
the thing in return is also that intrinsic motivation that you talked about.
which is what we want. I
Yeah.
think when you think about what is going to carry our kids through elementary school, middle school, high school, as adults, like I can't believe it.
Uh,
But that intrinsic motivator, that's what's going to serve them well in life. So it's good that we want them to feel this way. They don't always need that like toy or trip to Target, even though I always enjoy that. That it's ultimately the goal and the reward is that you feel good about yourself.
I love that.
Well, yeah. Well, we hope you guys all have a really nice Valentine's Day and enjoy those fun crafts. I mean, and the snacks and the treats and all that good stuff. And
Can't
then
wait
just
to
remember
see
to
what
point out
can't wait to see what
what.
comes home from school with the kids.
Yeah, that's always fun too. That like bag of goodies. You're like, let me take a peek here.
Yeah, let's see how much sugar you're coming home with now.
But really take those time. And I know we talk about it for highlighting it for this part of the year, but there's always time. It's always a good time to practice being kind, to practice doing something nice for other people, ones that people that we know and people that we don't know, so that we can help make this world a little bit of a better place.
Love it. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all of the latest, you can follow us on Instagram @_ and then we had kids. Thanks again, and like we say, life used to be carefree, and then we had kids.